Hey, this is Shay with Trucks to Sales, here today doing another video for you guys. Today we have the top 10 things that you should not do with your dump truck. We also have a video out on how to safely dump your dump truck, so definitely check that one out as well as our how to maintain a dump truck body system. Definitely good video, some good knowledge there as well. So today, number one on the list here, we have not dumping your dump truck on unstable soil, as well as just keeping an eye on your bed to make sure that you see that you're on unstable soil. So one of the key ways to see that your truck is starting to lean is by looking at the bed. So you want to be checking out the bed in your mirror, and you can see it leaning compared to your other mirror. So if you're seeing a bunch of bed coming out on your driver's side mirror and not your passenger mirror, then you know that bed is starting to lean as it's going up. And you want to definitely keep your eye on that, and don't take your eye off the bed while you're raising the hoist. You know, you may not be able to feel necessarily sitting in the truck, especially the front of the truck and the back of the truck could be twisted. So sitting in the driver's seat, you may not feel your truck being twisted, especially if you have a really long dump truck. So keep your hand on the control. Here we just have a mechanical control here. So the entire time you're dumping, you don't want to take your hand off that control. You know, the whole time the bed's raising, you just got to be ready to push the lever all the way down in case the bed is leaning. So the hydraulic hoist is not a stabilizing rod for the dump body. That hydraulic hoist can get scarred, and that's probably the number one thing that we see in our shop is people dumping on uneven terrain where the bed is starting to lean one way or the other, and either on the way up or emergency slamming the bed down, the hoist gets scratched because that thing is just not a stabilizing support for the bed at all. So you just, the way the bed is stable is by the truck being on flat ground. So definitely repositioning yourself is the number one thing that you need to do to keep yourself safe and your truck safe, is dumping on stable ground and not taking your eye off your box while you're dumping to see if it's leaning at all, and keeping your hand on the control, even if it's an air control, just ready to emergency slam that thing down. All right, well, let's get into number two here on the list. We have always dumping the airbag. So if you're in a truck that has an air ride suspension, you want to always flip the switch and dump the airbag. Some of these people are building dump trucks without an airbag dump switch. So if your truck doesn't have an airbag dump switch, you have to have that. Even some of these longer beds, once you start getting into 18, 19, 20-foot beds, even dumping on flat ground could be hazardous. You could possibly tip the truck over on flat ground with air in the airbags. So pretty much every one of the trucks that we've seen tipped over that we've repaired here in our shop has had an air ride suspension where they were dumping with the airbags full, an 18-foot bed or a 20-foot bed, something like that. So always deflate your airbags. You can also set up and order from us your PTO switch connected to your airbag dump switch, so that every time you turn your PTO on, it's dumping the airbags. But sometimes even the airbag dump switches, if you're not monitoring that that's working properly, sometimes you might be flipping the switch and your airbags aren't dumping, or they're dumping really slow. It's taking 2 or 3 minutes to dump the airbags. So definitely keep an eye on that. If you have a valve that's starting to get clogged or dirty or something like that, and it's taking a long time to let the air out, just remember that before you start dumping, it's going to take 2 or 3 minutes. So flip that airbag dump switch in advance. All right, on to number 3 here. We have slamming on the brakes to unstick your load. So let's say you got your bed all the way up in the air, and you got some dirt or concrete chunks or whatever stuck in the bed, and you're driving forward and slamming on your brakes. Driving backwards isn't as bad and slamming on your brakes, but it's still something that can damage your hydraulic cylinder. So what we've seen here a few times is people bubbling one of the stages of the hoist by jamming on their brakes. So it puts tons of pressure in there, and one of the stages of the hoist becomes larger. So now your bed ends up stuck up in the air, and you have to call a mechanic shop out to come remove the hoist from the bed And if the bed still has dirt in it, you can imagine what a headache that can be, removing that hydraulic hoist and lowering down a bed full of dirt or concrete chunks or something like that. So definitely don't get crazy jamming on the brakes to unstick your load, because it can damage your hydraulic cylinder. You're a lot better off adding a bed vibrator, or if you have to, getting a shovel out, because damaging your hydraulic cylinder is definitely going to be a costly experience. All right, on to number 4 here. We have shutting the PTO off after you're dumping. So another common way to damage the PTO and the pump is not shutting it off when you're done dumping. So there's different hydraulic systems, you know, just the standard system, that's a one-line system. That can get damaged with just 2 or 3 minutes of driving down the road. That's leaving the PTO on, and you start driving 2 or 3 minutes, you can burn up the pump and just ruin the whole pump and ruin your day if you got a load in the truck and now you can't dump it. And then we also set up a system where there's a return line, and that could maybe get you 15, 20, 30 minutes of driving before your pump is burned up, but that's still not going to prevent it from being burned up. So you just want to get in the habit of every time you're done raising the bed to just shut the PTO off. Some of these PTO controls are automatic, so as soon as you start to put the bed down, the PTO shuts off. But even getting out of your truck with the bed up, maybe let's say you have the bed up, you want to go back there, check it out, make sure everything's cleared out, but you're leaving the truck running and idling. Even after a certain amount of time of idling, you can start to overheat your pump. And maybe you don't fully overheat it, but enough times of it getting super hot is going to damage it. So definitely shut your PTO off after you're done dumping. All right, on to number 5 here. We have slamming the bed down with a load in the bed. So let's say you're raising your bed and now you need, and it's looking like it's unstable, so you want to set the bed down and you're just slamming the knob down. You want the bed to come down, and it's better, you know, to slam the bed down than flip your truck over, but still you don't want that bed just slapping your frame. That can cause damage to your frame as well, especially over time with those constant hammer hits. I mean, you have 30,000 pounds of dirt in your bed and you're letting that thing drop, that can damage your frame. So definitely keep that in mind to try to catch it, you know, and slow it down. If you have an air system, you want to just feather the knob on and off so that the bed sets down nice and easy. With this cable control system, you can maybe, if you had to emergency let it down, you could let it down quickly and then try to pull up a little bit to put some pressure back in there to let the bed come down slow. So that's definitely something you don't want to do with your dump truck. And on to number 6 here, we have getting out of your truck and checking your tailgate after you've dumped. A lot of people don't do that, but you need to do it for a number of reasons. It's good to check it right after you've dumped, you know, especially if you're in a landfill, something like that. One reason is to make sure that there's no dirt sitting on your truck for when you drive down the road. Another reason is to make sure your tailgate latches are latched all the way. And sometimes the tailgate latches might be almost latched, but you got some dirt in there, so now it's not quite closing your tailgate to a complete close, and it's open just a little bit. And what happens when these tailgates are open just a little bit, most dump body companies and haul lane dump bodies, the latch fully locks itself when it's fully closed. So even if there's no air pressure in the system, the latch does not want to come open at all. The latch will break before it comes open. But if it's not in that locked position and it's open just a little bit, then you get into a situation where you can, you know, where you're at a job site and they're loading you and your tailgate pops open. Or even worse, you're leaving the job site and driving down the road, hitting some bumps, and your tailgate pops open because it wasn't fully closed. So number one reason why people's tailgates are popping open on the road or at a job site is it's not fully closed, and it could be dirt in the latch right there or something else obstructing it. So definitely get out of your truck, check, make sure there's no dirt back there, make sure the latches are closed, and then go ahead and take a look at your tires and make sure at the landfill you didn't pick up any concrete chunks or rocks that are stuck between the duals. That's another thing too. You don't check your tires, you back up after you're done dumping and you head out of the landfill, and right where you were dumping, you picked up a little boulder in there and now it's ruined both your tires. So definitely a number of reasons to get out of the truck there, but it's always a good idea after you're done dumping, just get out, inspect your truck one time before you jump back on the road. All right, on to number 7 here. We have not letting water sit in your dump truck body. So especially in these northern states where you're getting freezing, all that stuff, and you might be parking your truck for a few months. The best thing to do is just raise your bed just enough so that it's on an incline. You don't want to put it way up in the air where you have the different stages of the cylinder exposed to water and stuff like that, because you can actually get rust on the surface of the cylinder. So just raising your bed just enough so that water is not puddling in there is what you want to do, especially if you have a bed that's not made of hardened steel, that's made of high tensile steel. That high tensile steel rusts even quicker. So that's just going to wear your bed out prematurely by letting water sit in there, especially letting water sit in there all winter. So when you're storing your truck, you know, over the weekend, rainstorms, or going on vacation, or for a winterization, set it so that the dump body is not gathering water in there, especially with these trailers and pup trailers. A lot of these pup trailers that you can tow behind your dump truck that are dumping, those will wear out from water sitting in there before wearing out from actual concrete chunks or loads or something like that. So definitely do that. You could also drill a little hole in the front of your bed as well, something like that, but typically dirt and stuff will end up clogging that hole. So it's really better to just get a block of wood and set it under there, because if you're leaving it for a week or so, the hydraulic pressure could bleed down and your bed could be sitting flat again. All right, on to number 8 here. We have engaging your inner axle lock while the wheels are spinning. So if you're familiar with the inner axle lock, it puts power from the front axle to the rear axle on the truck. So what can happen is the truck's at a dead stop and you don't realize it, but the wheels are still spinning, and you go ahead and flip the inner axle lock, and that can break the inner axle lock, and those can be $2,000 to $4,000 to repair. It can really do some damage to your truck. So what you want to get in the habit of doing is stepping on the brake every time before you flip the inner axle lock switch. You want to just make sure you're stepping on the brake so that none of the tires are turning. As like I said, it's just, you could be on gravel, you could be on something like that, and you just don't even notice, but really your wheels are spinning. So always step on the brake before engaging your inner axle lock. All right, on to number 9 here. We have the differential lock. Similar to the inner axle lock, but the differential lock is inside of each differential. So if you take a look at this truck, it has a forward differential lock switch and a rear axle differential lock switch. So with either of those differential lock switches engaged, you have to be driving straight. You don't want to be turning the truck left or right. So if you're on really compacted dirt, you can do damage to your axles with that differential lock switch engaged, because those tires are going to spin the same speed no matter what. So when you're turning a corner, you end up with the tires wanting to rotate at different speeds. So if you leave that differential lock on and you're on dry pavement with a load in the truck and you turn a corner, that's it. Differentials, both differentials, if you have both differential locks on, are going to be broken, and you potentially did $10,000 in damage to your truck. A lot of companies don't order the trucks with the differential lock because it can be such a costly mistake leaving it on. Most trucks have lights on the dash, but you have to make sure that stuff's working as well. And sometimes if you flip it while the air pressure is low, it may not disengage or something like that. So definitely make sure your differential lock is not on while you're turning any corners, especially on dry pavement. All right, and on to our 10th and final thing that you should not do with your dump truck is work for customers that don't pay you. So I know it's easier said than done, but we got a couple videos coming out on starting a dump truck business, and we're going to cover in that video making sure you're working for people who pay you. So that's definitely an important thing. I mean, you let somebody get you strung out for 30 or 60 days of hauling, you got all your fuel, you got your insurance, you got your truck payment, possibly even paying your employee to sit there. So that's definitely something that you don't want to have happen, and we're going to try to put some videos up for that, because that's one of the #1 things that puts truckers out of business, is not getting paid after you've done all the work. Thanks again for checking out this video, and let me know in the comments below if there is some more important things than these top 10 things that you think you should not do with your dump truck. Just post that in the comments below. Also, let us know if there's any videos you want to see, and be sure to check out some of our other really useful videos, especially the one on troubleshooting the DPF and DEF systems. Got some good information in there for you guys. And once again, this is Shay with Trucks to Sales. Be sure to check out our website at www.truckstosales for more information.